A violent storm rages across the middle of the ocean as a mysterious woman named Sorayatu sails alone through the towering waves, calmly playing a magical string instrument. Just when it seems the sea is about to swallow her, she releases a powerful melody that splits a massive wave in half, allowing her tiny boat to continue forward. But before she has a chance to catch her breath, another enormous wave crashes into her from behind, throwing her into the water. She slams against the ocean floor and loses consciousness. Some time later, Sorayatu wakes up on a lonely beach after hearing the cries of the baby she was carrying. Injured and barely able to move, she drags herself across the sand until she reaches the child, Kubo, wrapping him in a comforting embrace despite her pain. Years pass, and Kubo has grown into a young boy living with his mother inside a secluded mountain cave. Every morning he prepares their simple meals and takes care of Sorayatu, whose body and mind have never fully recovered from the terrible accident. Even eating is difficult for her, so Kubo patiently helps her before setting out for the nearby village. Once he arrives, Kubo is greeted by familiar faces, including an elderly woman struggling to survive by asking strangers for spare coins. Like always, he earns his own living by performing in the village square. Sitting before a growing crowd, he begins playing his shamisen, and something extraordinary happens. Sheets of folded paper spring to life, dancing and moving through the air as if controlled by invisible hands. The audience watches in amazement as Kubo brings an epic tale to life using nothing but music and magical origami. His story follows the legendary samurai Hanzo, a fearless warrior who lost everything after facing the terrifying Moon King. To defeat this seemingly unbeatable enemy, Hanzo must search for 3 ancient pieces of magical armor said to possess incredible power. Along his journey, he battles monstrous creatures and overcomes impossible challenges, leaving everyone in the village completely captivated. Just as the tale reaches its most exciting moment, and Hanzo is finally about to confront the Moon King, the evening bell echoes throughout the village. Knowing he must return home before nightfall, Kubo quickly gathers his enchanted paper figures, leaving the audience disappointed that they'll have to wait another day to hear the ending. Back inside the cave, Sorayatu appears more alert than usual and continues telling Kubo about his late father. Unfortunately, her damaged memory soon betrays her once again, causing her to lose track of the story halfway through. Wanting to cheer her up, Kubo gently asks what kind of person his father truly was away from the battlefield. A smile slowly returns to Sorayatu's face as she describes Hanzo as a kind, intelligent, and loving man who cared more about his family than anything else in the world. She explains that he sacrificed everything to protect his wife and son from the Moon King, who is actually Kubo's own grandfather. Kubo struggles to believe someone from his own family could commit such cruelty. But Sorayatu quickly reminds him that blood doesn't always make someone good. She reveals that the Moon King and her own sisters were responsible for stealing one of Kubo's eyes when he was just a child. Because of that, they must never discover where he is hiding. Terrified by the warning, Kubo promises to stay safe. Sorayatu reminds him of the rules that have kept him alive for years. He must never take his father's robe outside, and most importantly, he must never remain outdoors after sunset. If darkness falls before he returns home, something terrible will happen. Not long after, exhaustion overwhelms Sorayatu, and she drifts back into another deep sleep. Kubo quietly covers her with a blanket before lying down himself. During the night, he notices several enchanted origami figures floating around the cave on their own. The strange sight disappears almost as quickly as it began, leaving him confused but unable to understand its meaning. Several days later, Kubo visits the village during the annual ceremony honoring departed loved ones. Hoping to communicate with his father's spirit, he waits patiently beside the glowing lanterns, but no answer ever comes. Hurt and frustrated, he crushes his spirit lantern before tossing it aside. Only then does he realize the sky has already gone dark. The lanterns scattered across the river suddenly lose their light, and an eerie silence spreads through the village. Emerging from the shadows are 2 terrifying women shrouded in dark mist, Kubo's aunts. They have finally found him, and they have come to claim his remaining eye. Panicked, Kubo runs through the village, desperately searching for help. He warns everyone to flee, but nobody understands what is happening until the sinister mist begins swallowing everything in its path. Chaos erupts as villagers scatter in every direction while the dark force closes in on the frightened boy. Kubo stumbles and crashes onto the ground with nowhere left to escape. Just as his aunts prepare to seize him, a powerful blast of magical energy tears through the darkness. Saraitu arrives at the last possible moment, wielding her enchanted shamisen to drive the attackers back. Knowing she cannot hold them off forever, she tells Kubo there is only one way to survive. He must find the 3 legendary pieces of magical armor his father once searched for. Those relics now represent his only hope of defeating the Moon King. Without wasting another second, Saraitu uses the last of her remaining magic to create a pair of glowing wings that carry Kubo far away from the battlefield against his will. As he disappears into the night, he watches helplessly while his mother turns to face the terrifying enemies alone. Rather than seeking revenge, they begin describing the kind of person they believe he should become. They tell him stories of generosity, kindness, wisdom, and compassion until the confused old man slowly accepts this new identity. Instead of answering hatred with hatred, they choose mercy, giving him the chance to live the peaceful life he never allowed others to have. As dawn breaks, Kubo quietly prepares a farewell for his parents. Standing beside the river, he admits that no matter how much time passes, he will always miss them. Even so, he understands they have never truly left him. Everything they taught him, their courage, kindness, and love, will remain part of him forever. With great care, Kubo places glowing lanterns onto the water in memory of Hanzo and Saraitu. The lights drift gently down the river, carrying the spirits of his parents into the distance while their love continues to guide him. Although Kubo's journey began with unimaginable loss, it ends with hope. He discovers that real strength doesn't come from magical weapons or legendary armor. It comes from the people who love us, the memories we protect, and the courage to remain compassionate even after experiencing great pain. And with the first light of a new day shining across the valley, Kubo looks toward the future, finally ready to begin the next chapter of his life while carrying his family's legacy wherever he goes. Before he can recover it, the gigantic dragon catches him in its claws. With one violent motion, the Moon King tears away Kubo's magical helmet and throws him deep into the nearby forest, leaving the young warrior battered and nearly defenseless. Lying on the ground, Kubo realizes brute strength alone will never defeat his grandfather. Instead of relying on weapons, he reaches for the 2 bracelets he carries, one woven from his mother's hair and the other from his father's bowstring. Carefully attaching them to his shamisen, he begins to play. The music echoes across the valley. Its haunting melody awakens the spirits honored by the lanterns throughout the village. One by one, glowing souls gather around Kubo, joined by the villagers themselves. Together, they stand united behind him, proving that the bonds between family and loved ones can never truly be broken. Drawing strength from every cherished memory, Kubo declares that love and remembrance are far more powerful than fear. The magical song expands into a brilliant shield of light, surrounding everyone in the village. The Moon King hurls himself against the barrier again and again. But no matter how fiercely he attacks, he cannot break through the power created by the memories of those who have passed on. Then Kubo plays one final note. A tremendous wave of light surges across the battlefield, washing over the monstrous dragon. Instead of destroying him through violence, the magic strips away the darkness that has consumed him for so long. The terrifying creature disappears, leaving behind nothing more than an old man. The Moon King survives, but everything that made him the ruthless ruler he once was has vanished. He no longer remembers the life he lived or the terrible things he did. The frightened villagers gather around him. He brings the support beams crashing down, recovering the ancient relic just as frightened villagers emerge from hiding. Without wasting a second, Kubo warns everyone to flee. He knows exactly what's about to happen. Moments later, the sky darkens as the Moon King himself arrives. The powerful ruler offers Kubo one last opportunity to join him willingly, promising unimaginable power if the boy abandons his humanity. But Kubo refuses without hesitation, choosing the memories of his family over the empty promises of immortality. Enraged by the rejection, the Moon King unleashes his true form. His body transforms into a gigantic dragon-like creature glowing with supernatural power, and the final battle begins. The monstrous Moon King surges forward, shaking the entire village with every step. His enormous dragon-like form towers over Kubo, making the young boy seem insignificant by comparison. But despite the overwhelming difference in strength, Kubo refuses to back down. Carrying the magical sword and wearing the legendary armor, he charges straight toward the terrifying creature. The battle erupts instantly. The Moon King lashes out with devastating force, tearing through buildings as Kubo narrowly avoids one attack after another. Every strike leaves the village in ruins, forcing Kubo to stay constantly on the move. Looking for an opening, he manages to slash across the monster's body, proving that even the seemingly unstoppable ruler can be wounded. The attack only fuels the Moon King's rage. Roaring with fury, the beast launches another relentless assault, chasing Kubo through the collapsing streets. Homes are ripped apart as the giant creature tears through everything standing in its way. Kubo continues fighting with incredible determination, but the Moon King's overwhelming power gradually begins to push him back. During the chaos, Kubo loses control of the unbreakable sword. Driven by instinct more than memory, he throws himself back into the battle and strikes the sorceress before she can finish Monkey. Rushing to his family's side, he finally speaks from the heart, declaring that no matter what has happened to him, Soraitu and Kubo will always be the most important part of his life. His words deeply move Soraitu, who begs him to continue protecting their son no matter what happens next. But tragedy strikes almost instantly. The sorceress attacks from behind, driving a blade into Hanzo before anyone has a chance to stop her. Seeing his father collapse, Kubo freezes in disbelief. Monkey desperately orders him to run while there's still time, but Kubo refuses to leave the people he loves behind. Instead, he reaches for his shamisen and unleashes an enormous wave of magical energy that echoes throughout the fortress. When the light finally fades, silence fills the ruins. Sometime later, Kubo sits alone among the belongings left behind by his parents. The battlefield is quiet, and the weight of everything he has lost finally crashes down on him. Holding back nothing, he breaks into tears. As one tear lands on the strings of his shamisen, the instrument responds with a gentle melody. Hanzo's enchanted origami warrior springs to life one final time and silently points toward a forgotten scroll lying nearby. Kubo quickly unrolls it and discovers an illustration revealing the location of the final treasure, the legendary magical helmet. Realizing there is still hope, Kubo crafts a new bracelet using the string from his father's belt alongside the strand of his mother's hair. Carrying the love and sacrifice of both parents with him, he creates a pair of magical wings and sets off alone to claim the final piece of the armor. Following the map, Kubo reaches a ruined village where the helmet hangs from the remains of an old wooden structure. To everyone's surprise, she immediately recognizes him. She laughs at the sight of the giant warrior and reveals a shocking truth that changes everything Kubo thought he knew. Long ago, Beetle wasn't simply one of Hanzo's allies. He was Hanzo himself. After Hanzo chose Soraitu over the Moon King's family, the sorceress punished him with a terrible curse. His memories were erased. His human body was transformed into the strange beetle-like creature standing before them, and he was condemned to wander the world without remembering the people he loved. The revelation leaves Kubo speechless. Everything suddenly makes sense. Beetle's incredible fighting skills, his instinct to protect Kubo, and the strange connection he always felt toward Hanzo's belongings were never coincidences. His father had been traveling beside him the entire time without either of them realizing it. The emotional moment doesn't last long. The sorceress hurls Hanzo across the room before turning her attention toward Kubo. Determined to finish the mission she failed years earlier, she prepares to take his remaining eye once and for all. Thinking quickly, Kubo strikes her with the magical power of his shamisen, destroying both her staff and the mask that fuels much of her strength. Furious, she retaliates immediately, sending the young boy crashing into the stone floor. With Kubo temporarily out of the fight, Monkey charges forward, wielding the unbreakable sword with everything she has. The sisters exchange a series of relentless attacks as sparks fly through the ruined fortress. Although Monkey fights with incredible determination, the sorceress gradually gains the upper hand, knocking the sword from her grasp and forcing her to the ground. Just when defeat seems unavoidable, Beetle recovers. That night, after Kubo falls asleep, Saraitu quietly speaks with Beetle. She reveals a heartbreaking secret. The magic keeping her alive inside the monkey's body is fading, and before long, she will disappear forever. She admits she never wanted Kubo to discover her true identity because she couldn't bear the thought of making him experience the pain of losing his mother a second time. Beetle promises that no matter what happens, he will protect Kubo until the very end. Comforted by his words, Saraitu finally finds a measure of peace. While sleeping, Kubo experiences a vivid dream showing him the ruins of his father's old fortress. Hidden somewhere inside lies the final piece of the legendary armor, the magical helmet. The next morning, Kubo shares the vision with his companions. Without hesitation, the three set off toward the abandoned fortress, unaware that their most dangerous confrontation yet is waiting for them there. After days of traveling, Kubo, Monkey, and Beetle finally arrive at the ruins of Hanzo's old fortress. Time has reduced the once proud stronghold to little more than broken walls and scattered debris, yet the place still carries the memories of the legendary samurai who once called it home. As they carefully search the abandoned fortress, Kubo discovers an old doorway decorated with a faded painting of his family. For a brief moment, it feels as though his parents are welcoming him back. But before they have a chance to continue their search, a thick cloud of dark mist sweeps through the ruins. Out of the shadows steps Kubo's remaining aunt. Before anyone can react, she traps all three of them with her powerful magic, leaving them completely unable to move. Confident that victory is finally within her grasp, she mocks their failed journey and slowly approaches the helpless group. Then her eyes fall on Beetle. As he regains consciousness, he notices something different about the monkey. The truth can no longer remain hidden. She reveals that she is far more than a magical guardian. She carries the spirit of Saraitu herself, allowing Kubo's mother to remain beside her son for a little while longer. Overcome with emotion, Kubo embraces her, relieved that he hasn't completely lost his family. His mother assures him that although their journey is becoming more dangerous, they will continue facing it together. Later, the trio reaches a small island and takes shelter inside a quiet cave. Wanting answers, Kubo asks his mother why she now exists in the form of a monkey. Using Kubo's magical shamisen to help tell the story, Saraitu finally reveals the truth about the past. Long ago, she and her sisters were sent by the Moon King to hunt down Hanzo. Their father feared that anyone who gathered the three pieces of the enchanted armor would eventually become powerful enough to challenge him. His solution was simple: eliminate anyone who attempted the quest before they could succeed. But everything changed when Saraitu met Hanzo. Instead of finding the ruthless warrior she had expected, she discovered a man filled with compassion and courage. During their confrontation, Hanzo showed her kindness rather than hatred, and over time, the two fell deeply in love. Unable to obey her father's cruel orders, Saraitu abandoned the Moon King's side and chose a completely different life with Hanzo. Her decision ignited a war. While Saraitu escaped with their young son, Hanzo remained behind to protect them, fighting until he could no longer stand. He willingly gave everything to ensure that his family had a chance to survive. Saraitu, then explains the Moon King's true goal. He doesn't simply want revenge. He wants Kubo's remaining eye. By taking away both of his eyes, he believes he can separate the boy from his emotions and humanity, molding him into a powerful and merciless ruler, just like himself. Beetle barely manages to stop the attack, giving the monkey just enough time to turn the battle around. Using the enemy's magical chain against her, the monkey throws the sorceress off balance and slams her to the deck. She quickly orders Beetle to rescue Kubo while she keeps their attacker occupied. Beetle wastes no time and dives back beneath the waves, but almost immediately disaster strikes. The ship's mast collapses during the fight, crashing down onto the monkey and pinning her beneath the wreckage. Meanwhile, Kubo finds himself completely surrounded by the monstrous creature lurking in the deep. Mesmerized by its glowing eyes, he begins losing control of his senses and drifts helplessly toward its enormous mouth. At the last possible moment, Beetle reaches him. Firing arrows to distract the beast, he grabs Kubo and drags him away before the monster can swallow him whole. When they finally reach the surface, they discover the leaf boat has been almost completely destroyed. Floating pieces of the shattered vessel are scattered across the water, while the monkey continues desperately avoiding the sorceress's attacks. Although she's exhausted and injured, she refuses to surrender. Spotting the unbreakable sword lying nearby, the monkey makes one final desperate charge. The sorceress lashes out with her chain in an attempt to stop her, but the monkey pushes through the attack, retrieves the sword, and unleashes a devastating strike that finally defeats her powerful opponent. The victory comes at a cost. Bruised and barely able to stand, the monkey collapses from exhaustion while Beetle rushes over carrying the unconscious Kubo. Fearing the worst, they desperately try to wake him. Then something extraordinary happens. The shattered remains of their leaf ship begin repairing themselves. Piece by piece, the vessel rebuilds itself through an unseen magical force until it looks exactly as it did before the battle. At the same time, Kubo slowly opens his eyes. But their brief moment of peace doesn't last long. Dark storm clouds begin gathering over the ocean as sunset approaches. At the very same moment, Hanzo's enchanted origami points toward the water below, revealing that the second piece of the magical armor lies somewhere deep beneath the sea. Without hesitation, Beetle dives into the freezing water to search for it, while Kubo and the monkey remain aboard the leaf ship, anxiously waiting for his return. Beetle disappears beneath the freezing water while Kubo and the monkey wait anxiously on the leaf boat. Minutes pass, then even more time slips away, but there is still no sign of him. As the sky grows darker and the storm moves closer, the monkey insists they must leave before they're both trapped at sea. Kubo refuses to abandon his friend. Convinced that Beetle is still alive, he dives into the ocean to search for him, leaving the monkey alone on the drifting vessel. The moment Kubo disappears underwater, danger arrives. One of his ants suddenly emerges from the darkness and wraps a magical chain around the monkey, hoping to eliminate the last obstacle standing between her and Kubo. Instead of retreating, the monkey launches herself into battle, matching the sorceress blow for blow despite being badly outmatched. Far below the surface, Kubo finally discovers the second piece of the legendary armor resting on the ocean floor. As he reaches for it, countless enormous eyes begin opening in the darkness around him. They belong to a terrifying sea creature that quietly circles its prey before preparing to strike. Back on the surface, the battle becomes more intense. The monkey blocks the sorceress's relentless attacks with the unbreakable sword, refusing to give her any opportunity to reach Kubo. At that very moment, Beetle bursts out of the water, only to find the fight already underway. Before he can react, the sorceress hurls the monkey's own weapon toward him, hoping to catch him off guard. The monkey rushes forward with the sword, hoping to end the battle quickly, but she soon realizes the blade she grabbed isn't the true weapon. The real sword is hidden somewhere among dozens of identical blades embedded throughout the monster's skull. As the giant skeleton lashes out, chaos erupts across the cavern. The monkey is trapped in the creature's grasp, while Beetle fires arrows to distract the monster. Kubo desperately commands his enchanted origami to create openings, buying his friends precious seconds to escape. Despite their efforts, the skeleton proves incredibly powerful. A violent shockwave throws Kubo across the cave, while Beetle risks his own safety by flying toward the monster's head. The giant manages to seize Beetle as well, leaving both of Kubo's companions completely helpless. Thinking quickly, Kubo climbs onto the monster's enormous skull and begins pulling sword after sword from its head. One by one, they snap or disappear until at last, he discovers the genuine, unbreakable sword. The instant he removes it, the magical force holding the skeleton together disappears. The towering monster collapses into countless scattered bones, bringing the battle to an end. The destruction sends the three companions flying out of the cave, but all of them survive. Now carrying the legendary sword, they continue their quest. Using his magical shamisen, Kubo creates a boat made entirely from giant leaves, allowing the group to cross the open sea toward the next piece of the enchanted armor. During the voyage, Beetle teaches Kubo how to hunt fish with a bow, giving the young boy valuable survival skills while the three slowly grow closer as friends. For the first time since leaving home, Kubo begins to feel that he is no longer facing this impossible journey alone. Beetle explains that he once belonged to Hanzo's army, but years ago he was struck by a powerful curse that transformed his body into its current form while erasing much of his memory. Even though he can barely remember his past, he has spent years searching for any trace of his former comrades. When Kubo shows him the symbol stitched onto the back of his father's robe, Beetle is overwhelmed with emotion. He immediately understands that Kubo is Hanzo's son and swears to protect him for as long as it takes. The monkey remains cautious, unsure if the giant can truly be trusted, but after watching Beetle demonstrate his impressive fighting skills, she reluctantly agrees to let him travel with them. With three companions now working together, the magical origami continues leading them deeper into an ancient forest. After hours of traveling through narrow paths and hidden passages, it finally stops beside an enormous tree concealing the entrance to a forgotten cave. As they step inside, a sudden collapse shakes the entire cavern. Part of the entrance crumbles away, sending the trio plunging into a massive underground chamber. Thankfully, they survive the fall, but what awaits them below is far more dangerous than the drop itself. Resting inside the enormous skeletal hand of a long-dead giant is the first legendary treasure, the unbreakable sword. The monkey immediately warns everyone to stay back, fearing the weapon has been left there as bait. Beetle, however, confidently volunteers to retrieve it himself. He walks straight toward the giant skeleton and pulls the sword free without a second thought. For a brief moment, nothing happens. Then the cave begins to tremble. Bones scattered throughout the chamber suddenly rise into the air, assembling themselves into the towering skeleton of a colossal monster. Within seconds, the creature comes alive and launches a devastating attack against the three adventurers. Kubo eventually regains consciousness in the middle of a freezing snowstorm, completely alone and far from everything he knows. Before he can understand where he is, a strange talking monkey appears and urgently tells him they have no time to waste. If they stay there, the Moon King will soon find them. Although Kubo has every reason to be suspicious, he decides to trust the mysterious creature. The monkey leads him to the shelter of an enormous whale skeleton, where they rest and prepare a warm meal. Still trying to make sense of everything, Kubo asks who she really is. The monkey reveals that before Sarayato sent her son away, she used the last of her magic to breathe life into a wooden monkey charm, allowing it to protect him after she was gone. The realization hits Kubo hard. His mother sacrificed everything to keep him alive, and now this magical guardian is all that remains of her protection. Before leaving, Kubo discovers that he accidentally carried away a single strand of his mother's hair. The monkey carefully weaves it into a bracelet, encouraging him to keep it close as a reminder that his mother is always with him. The following morning, something unusual catches their attention. One of Kubo's enchanted origami warriors begins moving on its own, almost as if it knows exactly where it needs to go. Believing the paper samurai is guiding them toward the magical armor, Kubo and the monkey decide to follow it without hesitation. Their journey suddenly takes an unexpected turn when Kubo is grabbed by a towering beetle-like warrior. At first, the monkey prepares to attack, believing the giant is dangerous. But Kubo quickly realizes the creature has no intention of hurting him. Instead, the strange warrior excitedly recognizes the origami samurai and introduces himself as Beetle.